50 miles an hour when you're looking at it, never looks that fast. It's never fast enough. So a lot of it is also assisted by the way it's cut. I think Tom Rolfe is really good at this kind of every form of cutting, actually. And I'd never worked with Tom Rolfe before, but discovered he was almost excellent in every way, very good at balancing scenes of character and dialogue at the same time, also very much like to actually cut action. That action then needs to be assisted by sound design. So there's a big emphasis on what I would now come under the heading of sound design and careful attention to sound and how it's placed and how it's mixed. And because I'd already at this juncture I was kind of obsessed with sound, actually, mainly coming through two science fictions which left their, trail of, my enthusiasm for that unusual aspects to sound, because I did Alien and Blade Runner, and that's where I really got into and learnt about sound, the power of unusual sound, how it can push your emotional buttons as well as anything else, same as music. Music can do that. It's certainly a huge influence on what I do as a director, to the extent that I've always got in the back of my mind as I'm shooting, as I'm prepping, as I'm shooting, that this scene will certainly be leaning on for and on music to, assist the scene, really, to underpin the emotional aspects of what the actors are doing. Editors and actors, purists, will say, well, you should be able to cut the scene without any assistance of music. Of course, that is so, but at the same time, I think a great composer, as Hans Zimmer is, takes all that on board and takes all that into account. Therefore, his music is never intrusive, always inventive, and really underpins what I just described. Kind of guy you want. Casting is, after script, is everything. And so I take a lot of time casting. And sometimes unsure, because casting is like getting married, and you don't really want a sticky divorce, and you want it to be a nice affair. So if I'm not sure, I will go back again and again, and then think or decide it's them, or say no, it's not right, and let's find somebody else. So that process, they were very patient with me on that process, but because at the end of the day, I believe if you cast right, from a director's point of view, half your problems are over on that morning or on that day, when you're suddenly standing there with a big film crew who are all staring at you, saying, right, what are we going to do next?
Alimony apartment. That's king size.
If you've chosen well, then the actor, in a way, should be in full partnership with you. And therefore it makes the whole experience that much more rewarding and fulfilling, and the biggest word of all, fun. There's a lot of pressure making a movie, a lot of pressure on a film set, and I try not to let it intrude. Filming has to be fun for everyone. And if you make that an arena for the actor particularly, of where he feels or she feels safe, I mean, safe literally, safe emotionally, because they're going to expose themselves in a way that people aren't never normally, asked to do. So I have a lot of respect for actors who actually are having a polished piece of glass in front of them that's recording their nerve ends, and they've got to be prepared to let it go. And my job is to allow them or encourage them to open up. And if it's too much, that's cool, and we back down. But that's the conversation that has to be able to happen between the actor and the director. That's what it's about. You ought to think about that, pal. Once they trust that, the end result normally is better. As in always, these notions and small inserts of violence, I don't like to dwell on them. And I've never experienced anything in my life which is where I've actually witnessed a moment of violence, but of course we've all now seen it in newsreel form but usually they're extremely brief, and half the time they're half seen, half heard. Something terrible happened, and that's how I like to do my action and shoot scenes like this, which, in fact, I must say I look carefully at Willie Friedkin's French Connection, the first one, which I still think is one of the best New York cop films ever. And even today, you run it right now today, I thought it's still one of maybe the best. So I was very taken with that and was trying to not copy, but actually, be influenced by. And I think I was very happy with what the Meatpacking District gave me in terms of its environment and its the parallel with violence is also the hanging of the sides of beef. Jan de Bon was a cameraman that I hadn't worked with, and obviously camera is extremely, inordinately important to me. I think I'm born and bred on a camera with many commercials. The rumor has it I did 2,500 commercials before I did a film. I think that was way an exaggeration. I probably did about 1,900, just under 2,000, which is still a lot, and operated all of them. So that carried me through into my first film and second film, which is a Dulistan, an Alien as an operator. I wasn't allowed to on Blade Runner because I was in town as the new kid on the block, and the union at that moment would not allow me to do that. And besides, I had Jordan Cronenworth and his team. But I can talk lenses and camera to any operator, and I'll know when a lens is going on what it's giving me. So sometimes I'm definitely a pressure on an operator, but if the operator is great, then he's going to enjoy the experience because it's going to be a challenge. And in this, Jan is the kind of cameraman, if I'd been a cameraman, is the cameraman I would like to have been, which is, if I was as a cameraman, I would always operate. Like today, the great ones also, like Bob Richardson always operates himself, because you can see it. The magic's happening through the viewfinder. And if you want any adjustments or slightly positioning the actor again, like saying, look, if you move 2 inches to your right when you hit that mark, it's just going to give us a better picture. I don't bullshit anymore to an actor. I'll say, that's what it's going to do. You're going to look better. It's going to look better. Just shift 2 inches as you come in, will you? And if the actor's usually good, early days they'd go, so it's all about the camera and not about me. And I was saying, no, it's about the overall thing, that package that we're putting together being better. So just do that with you, and that would be really cool. Normally they just say, sure. You can't let that dictate the scene, but I would gradually learn to hide my visual obsession and keep it from the actor so he doesn't feel like he's gradually being adjusted on a set. You adjust him on a set without him knowing it is the key. And then normally you just get, yeah, sure, fine. So they'll do it that way and move around that way, and it all kind of works. And Jan was an operator cameraman who had tremendous energy, which I also liked, because I think that everything moves on the floor. Honestly, the most efficient thing is between camera operator and first AD. That's where the floor is driven. And particularly if you're a director who never leaves the set. So then I'm right up, the first AD pushing him. I never leave the floor, and I'm always all over the camera. That's the way I work. And I think at the end of the day, anyone involved, really involved, like that. They enjoy that. They don't find it oppressive, or they don't find, well, let's get rid of the direction, we'll call him when we're ready, which I know can often happen. Not with a generation like mine that comes from where I come from and the school I come from. That's not what happens. You can't leave the set. That's it. There was a certain amount of ad-libbing in this, which I think, both Michael and Andy are good at. So whilst we were quite specific with the script, there was, always a certain amount of adjustment on the day and going through the scenes in rehearsal particularly. And I always think, I'm torn still as a director between, let's get on with it, and knowing the actors want to rehearse. And so, here we are in the Dotonbori. The Dotonbori is the night center of Osaka, which is actually based on a canal. Now, Jan, it's a hard job for Jan here because, first of all, you've got a huge mixture of all kinds of color temperatures of the light. But this is like, I don't know how many years ago this is now, but it's got to be, 13, 14, 15 years ago? Look at the media there then, and the amount of media that is being shoved out through all those various forms of lighting is giving Jan almost a stop to certainly photograph it. And so Jan then had to mix his light to actually photograph our actors. That was hard for him to do. I'm fascinated by architecture, so my hop, skips and jumps through my filmography are very much getting involved in how it looked in Blade Runner in terms of forms of design that I can say, because I know Richard Rogers told me, is that influenced what they did in terms of adjusting the shape of things to come in terms of architecture, which then you gradually shift towards a kind of minimalism, which Nori was really good at. And we had seen at this juncture, best done in Japan. Japanese architects there. So there's some very established architects there, which are coming out of utilitarian techniques, which are suddenly have great beauty. Polished concrete is beautiful. Glass block and polished concrete. Minimalist, no furniture except 4 chairs is really interesting. And I tend to be a bit of a minimalist. And so Norris is extremely good at that, and that's where we push this club. The strongest form of respect, of course, is self-respect. Whatever anyone else thinks, your most important description of that would be self-respect. Then everyone else can go and F themselves. All this very low-key beauty of lighting and the interiors, and my favorite trick was the fans at this point. I now refuse to ever use another fan. But I like the way the light used to evolve and revolve, which I really got from Alien. And then I suddenly realized everyone, their mother's doing that, so I thought, I can't have one more fan, no more movies. But it does do things to the light. The light moves, which is kind of nice. Okay, here we are where we're told we've got, instead of having one night from this first shot of the cathedral, this is a mall. One night I'm meant to have, and I'm told when I arrived there, Stanley Jeff says they've given us 45 minutes. So all this is done in 45 minutes. Just position the cameras and do the thing. We couldn't light. We had to basically chuck up, I think, virtually like one light and shoot with the available light in the mall, which actually looks pretty good. At the time, I thought, wow, there's a bit of an odyssey. It's a lot of story to tell in the 2 hours, and I was always a little bit anxious. Well, one always is, actually, about the process, but, once you finish filming, then you're then making another kind of movie, because the editing process is a completely different thing, and it's really is the editing process to me is the final writing, where you're kind of readjusting and making things work.